The last thing Jasmine Parker expected on Christmas Eve was to watch a man walk away from her before she'd even said hello. She sat frozen in the upscale restaurant booth, watching Choi Jun-ho's broad shoulders disappear through the entrance, his expensive black coat swirling behind him like a shadow. Around them, couples laughed over wine and candlelight, completely unaware that she'd just been rejected in under 30 seconds, a new personal record. "Mommy," Lily's small hand tugged her sleeve. "Why did the man leave?" Jasmine looked down at her three daughters, Lily, Rose, and Violet, their matching red Christmas dresses now seeming ridiculous. She'd been so nervous about this blind date that her best friend had insisted on, she'd brought back up. Her girls, her entire world. And he'd taken one look at them and walked out. "It's okay, baby," she whispered, throat tight. "We don't need him anyway." But Violet, the boldest of her triplets, was already sliding out of the booth. Before Jasmine could stop her, the 4-year-old was running toward the door, her little hands moving in deliberate signs. Jasmine's heart stopped, because Choi Jun-ho had stopped too. He'd turned around, and he was staring at Violet with an expression that looked like he'd seen a ghost. 3 hours earlier, Jasmine had been trying to talk herself out of the entire thing. "I can't do this," she said for the 10th time, staring at her reflection in the bathroom mirror of her small Atlanta apartment. "What was I thinking?" "You were thinking that you're 32 years old, and you haven't been on a date since the girls were born." Her best friend Maya's voice came through the phone on speaker. "And that maybe, just maybe, you deserve one night of adult conversation." Jasmine touched up her lipstick, a deep burgundy that Maya had insisted brought out the warmth in her caramel skin. Her natural hair was styled in a twist-out that fell past her shoulders, soft coils that had taken an hour to perfect. She looked good. She knew she looked good. So why did she feel like she was about to throw up? "He doesn't even know about the girls," Jasmine said quietly. There was a pause on the other end. I know. But Maya, you know what happens. Every single time. The moment they find out I have triplets, they disappear. And I wanted one evening where someone looked at me as just Jasmine, not single mum of triplets. Just me." "Then why are you bringing them?" Jasmine looked toward the living room, where Lily, Rose, and Violet were playing with their Christmas stuffed animals. Gifts from her mother that they'd opened early. "Because it's Christmas Eve. I can't leave them with a sitter on Christmas Eve. And if this guy can't handle seeing me with my daughters, then he's not worth my time anyway." "That's my girl," Maya said warmly. "Now go. The reservation is at 6. And Jazz? This Choi guy. My colleague says he's gorgeous, like stupid gorgeous." "Great. So he'll be stupid gorgeous when he runs away." Jasmine hung up and smoothed down her burgundy sweater dress. "Girls, time to go!" 3 identical faces appeared in the doorway. Same deep brown eyes, same dark coils of hair in puffs, same gap-toothed smiles. The only way Jasmine could tell them apart was their personalities. Lily, the gentle observer, Rose, the dramatic one, and Violet, her fearless little warrior. "We're going to meet Mommy's friend," Jasmine said, kneeling to fix Rose's dress. "Remember what we practiced? Best behavior." "Is he our new daddy?" Rose asked, with 4-year-old bluntness. Jasmine's heart clenched. "No, baby. Just a friend, okay?" "Okay, Mommy," they chorused. The restaurant was everything Jasmine wasn't. Sleek, expensive, intimidating. Crystal chandeliers hung from exposed brick ceilings, and every table held couples dressed in clothes that cost more than her monthly rent. She immediately felt out of place in her department store dress. "Miss Parker." The hostess smiled professionally, but her eyes flickered to the triplets with barely concealed surprise. "Your party is already here. Follow me, please." Jasmine's stomach dropped as they wound through the restaurant. She held Lily's and Rose's hands, while Violet skipped ahead, completely unbothered by the stares they were getting. And then she saw him. Choi Jun-ho sat in a corner booth, and Maya's colleague hadn't been exaggerating. He was beautiful in a way that seemed almost unfair. Sharp jawline, dark hair styled back perfectly, and a black dress shirt that did nothing to hide the powerful build beneath. He was looking at his phone, fingers moving rapidly across the screen. He hadn't noticed them yet. Jasmine's mouth went dry. This man was way out of her league. This was a mistake. This was... He looked up. His eyes were the darkest brown she'd ever seen, intense and unreadable as they locked onto hers. For one moment, just one, she saw something flicker in his expression. Interest, maybe. Or appreciation. Then his gaze dropped to the three little girls beside her. His face went completely blank. He stood slowly, every movement controlled and deliberate. He was tall, much taller than she'd expected, and there was something about the way he held himself that screamed danger, authority, power. Jasmine opened her mouth to explain, to apologize, to say something. But Choi Jun-ho was already reaching for his coat. He signed something sharp and quick she didn't know ASL well enough to understand, and then he was walking past her. Just like that. He didn't say a word, didn't even look at her again. The humiliation was instant and crushing. "Mommy!" Lily's voice was so small, Jasmine couldn't speak. She just stood there, frozen as other diners pretended not to stare. And then Violet was running. "Vi, no!" But her daughter was already at the entrance, her small body blocking the door. Jasmine watched in horror as Violet's hands began to move. The ASL alphabet that Jasmine had taught them for fun, because it was pretty, and because Violet loved using her hands to talk. C-A-N-I... Choi Jun-ho had stopped dead in his tracks. His entire body was rigid as he stared down at the 4-year-old girl signing to him. Slowly, almost mechanically, he turned around fully. Violet continued, her face scrunched in concentration as she formed each letter carefully. B-E-Y-O-U-R-F-R-I-E-N-D. The restaurant had gone silent. Jasmine couldn't breathe. She started forward, desperate to pull Violet back, to apologize and get them all out of here before this got worse. But then Choi Jun-ho moved. He crouched down, bringing himself to Violet's eye level. His hands moved in fluid, perfect ASL, so fast and natural that Jasmine realized with a jolt that this was his language. He was deaf. The blind date had been with a deaf man, and she hadn't even known. Violet's eyes went wide with delight. She signed back, choppy and childish but enthusiastic. Choi Jun-ho's expression shifted, not quite a smile, but something softening around his eyes. Then Lily and Rose were there too, flanking their sister, and all three of them were signing at once in their limited vocabulary. It was chaos, half-formed letters, excited gestures, giggles, and Choi Jun-ho was watching them with an expression Jasmine couldn't decipher. Finally he looked up at her. The intensity in his eyes stole her breath. It wasn't anger. It was something else, something that made her skin prickle with awareness. He stood slowly, and his hands moved in signs that she couldn't follow. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, and turned it toward her. "They know sign language." It wasn't a question. His face was still unreadable, but there was something underneath. Surprise, maybe, or disbelief. "A little," Jasmine managed, her voice shaky. "I've been teaching them, just fingerspelling mostly. I didn't know you were deaf. Maya didn't mention..." He was already typing again. "Why did you bring children to a date?" The bluntness stung, but Jasmine lifted her chin. "Because they're my daughters, and it's Christmas Eve, and if you have a problem with that, then this wouldn't have worked anyway." She expected him to leave again. Part of her wanted him to. Instead, Choi Jun-ho looked at the triplets, still staring up at him with wide, hopeful eyes, and something in his expression shifted. He typed, "I don't have a problem with it. I was leaving because I thought you brought your employer's children to avoid being alone with me, that you weren't interested." Jasmine's mouth fell open. "What? No. These are my daughters. Mine." His eyes swept over her face, searching for something. Then he glanced at the girls again, at their identical faces, their matching dresses. "Triplets?" "Yes." She swallowed hard. I'm sorry if that's a deal-breaker. I understand if you want to leave. I already left once, he typed, and this time there was the faintest hint of something that might have been humor in his dark eyes. It was rude. My mother would be disappointed. He gestured toward the booth, an invitation. Jasmine hesitated, then nodded. Girls, come on, let's sit down. As they slid into the booth, Violet insisting on sitting next to Choi Jun-ho, which he allowed without protest, Jasmine tried to calm her racing heart. This was already nothing like she'd expected. Choi Jun-ho ordered in ASL with the waiter, who signed back fluently, making Jasmine realize this restaurant must be deaf-friendly, and then turned his attention to the girls. He signed something that made Violet giggle, and soon all three of them were trying to sign back, their little hands clumsy but eager. I'm sorry, Jasmine said, speaking while also using the basic signs she knew. They're still learning. It's not very good. Choi Jun-ho typed, They're doing perfectly. How long have you been teaching them? 6 months, maybe. I saw a video about teaching children sign language early for communication, and I thought, well, it seemed beautiful. They love it. He watched the girls for a long moment, something unreadable flickering across his features. Then he looked at Jasmine, really looked at her, and she felt that gaze like a physical touch. You're not what I expected, he typed. Neither are you, she said honestly. Maya didn't tell me you were deaf. She didn't tell me you had triplets. He paused. Or that you were stunning. Heat flooded Jasmine's face. Before she could respond, Rose tugged on her sleeve. Mommy, can we have the fancy bread? Choi Jun-ho was already signaling the waiter. When the bread basket arrived, he signed something to the girls that made them light up. They each took a piece carefully, suddenly on their best behavior. What did you tell them? Jasmine asked. He typed, that this is special Christmas bread, and we have to eat it like royalty. Something warm bloomed in Jasmine's chest. Thank you. The dinner that followed was strange and wonderful. Choi Jun-ho barely spoke, typed to Jasmine at first. Instead, he focused on the girls, signing with them, teaching them new words and correcting their finger spelling with a patience that shocked her. Lily, usually shy, signed her name for him. He smiled, actually smiled, and signed it back perfectly, then showed her the sign for flower, since lilies were flowers. Rose demanded to know the sign for princess, and when he showed her, she practiced it so many times that Violet got jealous and insisted on learning warrior instead. Jasmine watched him with growing fascination. This man who'd walked out at the sight of children was now completely engaged with her daughters, treating them like they mattered, like they were interesting. You're good with them, she said during a lull, signing as best she could. Choi Jun-ho's eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw something vulnerable there. He typed, I don't have much experience with children, but I rarely meet hearing people who teach their kids to sign, especially this young. Is that unusual? It's extraordinary, he typed. Then, after a pause, most people don't think about us at all. The honesty in those words struck her. I'm sorry. He shook his head. Don't be, tell me about you. Maya said you're a designer? Graphic designer, yes. Freelance, mostly. It lets me work from home with the girls. She hesitated. What about you? I run several businesses, import-export primarily, some real estate. It was vague, Jasmine noticed, but she didn't push. And you're okay with the triplets? The question came out before she could stop it. Most guys run when they find out. Choi Jun-ho's jaw tightened slightly. He typed for a long moment. Most guys are idiots. Your daughters are remarkable, and you raise them to be kind, curious, and brave enough to sign to a stranger. That says everything about who you are. Jasmine's throat went tight. Thank you. Besides, he typed, and there was definitely humor in his eyes now. Violet already asked to be my friend. I don't break promises to 4-year-olds. As if summoned, Violet signed something enthusiastically. Choi Jun-ho signed back, then typed for Jasmine. She wants to know if I have a Christmas tree. Do you? He hesitated, then shook his head. I don't usually celebrate. Why not? The question seemed to catch him off guard. His fingers hovered over his phone before he typed, "No one to celebrate with." The loneliness in those words was palpable. Before Jasmine could respond, Rose was pulling on Choi Jun-ho's sleeve, showing him something she'd drawn on a napkin with crayons the waiter had brought. He examined it seriously, then signed his approval. Watching him with her daughters, Jasmine felt something shift in her chest, something dangerous and warm. This was supposed to be a disaster, a blind date that went wrong. Instead, it was becoming something else entirely. When dessert arrived, chocolate cake that the girls devoured with enthusiastic abandon, Choi Jun-ho typed, "Can I see you again? You and the girls." Jasmine's heart skipped. "So you want to see all of us?" "Yes, they come with you. That's not negotiable, is it?" "No," she said firmly. "It's not. We're a package deal." "Good," he typed. "I wouldn't want it any other way." As they left the restaurant, the girls tired and sugar-high, Choi Jun-ho holding the door with that same careful courtesy, Jasmine felt the Christmas lights reflecting in her eyes. Outside, light snow was beginning to fall. Violet tugged on Choi Jun-ho's coat and signed THANKYOU. He crouched down again, and his hands moved in fluid signs. Jasmine caught enough to understand. "Thank you for being my friend." All three girls hugged him, and Choi Jun-ho, this powerful, controlled man who'd almost walked away, carefully hugged them back, his expression unguarded for just a moment. When he stood and looked at Jasmine, she saw everything he wasn't saying. "Tomorrow," he typed, "if you're free." "It's Christmas," Jasmine said. "We'll be home all day. Just us." "Can I come?" He paused. "I promise to bring a tree." Jasmine smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time in longer than she could remember. "We'd like that." As she buckled the girls into her old car and watched Choi Jun-ho disappear into a sleek black vehicle, Jasmine wondered what she'd just started, and why, for the first time since the triplets were born, she wasn't afraid to find out. Choi Jun-ho arrived at exactly 10 a.m. on Christmas morning with a 7-foot Douglas fir strapped to the roof of a truck that was definitely not the luxury sedan he'd driven the night before. Jasmine opened the door of her small apartment in her pajamas, flannel pants and an oversized college sweatshirt, and froze. "You actually brought a tree," he typed. "I don't break promises." Then, after a pause, "Is this too much?" "Mummy, the tree man is here." Violet's shriek could probably be heard 3 floors down. Within seconds, all 3 girls were at the door, jumping up and down in their matching Christmas pajamas, red with white snowflakes. Choi Jun-ho's eyes softened as he looked at them. "Come in," Jasmine said, stepping aside. "I apologize for the mess. We haven't. I mean, Christmas morning with triplets is—" He held up a hand, then typed, "Don't apologize. This is real life. I appreciate you letting me see it." As he maneuvered the massive tree through the doorway, muscles flexing under his black thermal shirt in a way that Jasmine definitely did not notice, she tried to see her apartment through his eyes. It was small, cramped even. The furniture was mismatched thrift store finds, and toys were scattered everywhere despite her best efforts. The kitchen was barely big enough for 1 person, let alone 4. Her graphic design workspace was a corner of the living room with a second-hand desk, but it was clean, loved. The walls were covered with the girls' artwork, photos of the 4 of them, and her own design prints. A small artificial tree sat in the corner, the best she could afford, already drooping under the weight of handmade ornaments. Choi Jun-ho took it all in silently. Then he typed, "It's perfect. It feels like a home." Something in Jasmine's chest squeezed. "Thank you." The next hour was chaos in the best way. Choi Jun-ho assembled the tree stand with the girls helping, which meant handing him tools, and asking approximately 800 questions that Jasmine translated into basic signs. He never once looked frustrated. Instead, he signed patiently, teaching them new words as they went. "Screwdriver," Jasmine signed slowly for the girls. Lily tried to copy it, Got it wrong? Then tried again. Choi Jun-ho corrected her gently, and when she got it right, he gave her a thumbs up that made her beam. "You're really patient with them," Jasmine said, sitting cross-legged on the floor as he worked. "Do you have siblings, nieces or nephews?" He paused, then typed, "I'm an only child, no nieces or nephews. My parents are in Korea. Do you see them often?" "Not as often as I should." There was something heavy in those words. He changed the subject quickly. "What about you? Where's their father?" Jasmine had known this question would come. "He left when I told him I was pregnant. Signed away all parental rights before they were even born. It's just been us four since the beginning." Choi Jun-ho's hands stilled. He looked at her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "He's an idiot," he typed bluntly. Despite herself, Jasmine laughed. "Yeah, he really is. His loss is extraordinary." Before Jasmine could process that, Rose was tugging on Choi Jun-ho's shirt, asking if they could decorate now. He nodded and signed, "After breakfast, I brought supplies." "Supplies?" Jasmine repeated. He went to the truck and returned with 3 large bags. Inside, ornaments, lights, a tree topper, and to Jasmine's shock, ingredients for Korean pancakes, pajeon, and other breakfast foods. "You cook?" she asked, stunned. "I live alone," he typed. "I had to learn. Can we help?" Violet signed. She was getting better already, Jasmine noticed. Choi Jun-ho nodded seriously, then typed to Jasmine, "If you trust me in your kitchen." "It's tiny," she warned. "I've worked in smaller." Watching Choi Jun-ho cook was mesmerizing. He moved with the same controlled precision he did everything else, but there was something almost meditative about it. He showed the girls how to mix batter, let them crack eggs, which went about as well as expected, and signed explanations for every step. Jasmine found herself relaxing for the first time in years. Maybe. Usually Christmas morning was stressful, trying to make everything perfect for the girls on a tight budget, cleaning up wrapping paper, managing sugar highs. But with Choi Jun-ho there, it felt different, easier, like she wasn't carrying everything alone. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly as the girls played in the living room waiting for breakfast. "You don't even know us." He finished flipping a pancake before responding. "Last night Violet asked if she could be my friend. No one has asked me that in a very long time." "But you must have friends, colleagues, people in your life, associates, employees, family obligation." He paused. "Not friends, and definitely not people who learned sign language because they thought it was beautiful." "It is beautiful," Jasmine said softly. "The way you sign, it's like watching art." Something flickered in his dark eyes. He typed, "You're the first hearing person to ever tell me that." The weight of that statement settled between them. Breakfast was loud, messy, and wonderful. The girls loved the Korean pancakes, especially when Choi Jun-ho showed them how to dip them in sauce. He'd brought extra food, enough to last Jasmine days, she realized, and seemed pleased when she complimented his cooking. Then came decorating. Choi Jun-ho lifted each girl, one at a time, to place ornaments on the higher branches. Lily was careful and methodical. Rose wanted everything to match. Violet threw ornaments on with gleeful abandon. He treated each approach as equally valid. "You're a natural with kids," Jasmine said, handing him another string of lights. "I'm improvising," he typed, "but they make it easy. They're honest, no hidden agendas. Unlike adults? Unlike my world, yes." Jasmine wanted to ask what he meant, what his world entailed, but Violet was demanding his attention again, showing him a handmade ornament she'd created from popsicle sticks. It was mid-afternoon when Jasmine noticed Choi Jun-ho watching her. Not the girls. Her. She was on the floor, helping Rose untangle a string of lights, her natural hair falling in her face, still in her pajamas. She probably looked ridiculous. But the way he was looking at her. "What?" she asked, signing awkwardly. He typed slowly, "You're beautiful like this. Relaxed. Happy." Heat flooded her face. "I'm a mess." "You're real." He paused. "Everyone in my life wears masks. You don't." "I don't have the energy for masks," Jasmine admitted. "Single mom of triplets. What you see is what you get." Good, he typed, because what I see is extraordinary. Jasmine's breath caught. Before she could respond, Lily tugged on her sleeve, asking for juice. But as she got up to get it, she felt Choi Jun-ho's eyes following her, and something warm and dangerous bloomed in her chest. Evening came too quickly. The tree was finished, slightly chaotic, but perfect in its imperfection. The girls were winding down, full of food and excitement. Jasmine knew Choi Jun-ho should leave, that this had already been more than she could have hoped for, but she didn't want him to go. "Thank you," she said as he gathered his things. This was the best Christmas we've had in a long time. "Thank you for inviting me," he typed. "I haven't celebrated Christmas since I was a child." He paused, searching for words. "This was everything I didn't know I was missing." Violet appeared suddenly. Throwing herself at Choi Jun-ho's legs, she signed STAY. His expression cracked just for a moment, and Jasmine saw the loneliness underneath, the isolation. He crouched down and signed something back. "What did you tell her?" Jasmine asked. "That I can't stay tonight," he typed. "But if it's okay with Mommy, I'd like to see all of you again. Soon. Tomorrow." The word was out before Jasmine could stop it. "We're not doing anything, and the girls would love—" "Yes," he typed immediately. "Tomorrow." At the door, Choi Jun-ho hesitated. Then he typed, "Can I ask you something personal?" "Okay. Why did you agree to the blind date? You must have known bringing the girls would scare most men away." Jasmine took a deep breath. "Because I wanted someone who would see all of me, not just the parts that are convenient. My daughters aren't a burden or an inconvenience. They're the best part of my life, and if someone can't handle that, then they don't deserve any part of me." Choi Jun-ho stared at her for a long moment. Then he typed, "You're the strongest person I've ever met." "I don't feel strong most days. That's what makes you strong." As he left, the girls waved from the window. Jasmine watched his truck disappear down the street and wondered what she was doing. This man was too good to be true, too perfect with her daughters, too attentive and kind. Men like that didn't exist, not in her experience, but as she tucked the triplets into bed that night, all three talking excitedly about Mr. Choi and the tree and the food, Jasmine let herself hope. Just a little. Maybe, just maybe, this Christmas miracle was real. Choi Jun-ho came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Within 2 weeks, he was part of their routine, arriving in the morning sometimes with breakfast, teaching the girls sign language, helping Jasmine with errands. He never pushed, never demanded, just existed in their space like he'd always belonged there. But Jasmine was starting to notice things, the way other people reacted to him in public, the subtle deference, the wide berth, the expensive watch he wore casually, the phone calls he'd step away to take, his face going cold and hard in ways that made her stomach twist. She'd Googled him, of course. Choi Jun-ho. Import-export business, real estate, several legitimate companies. But there were other things, whispers on forums, rumors about Koreatown connections, nothing concrete, nothing proven, but enough to make her wonder. "Can I ask you something?" Jasmine said one afternoon while the girls napped. They were sitting on her tiny balcony, the January cold biting but manageable under blankets. He looked up from his phone and nodded. "What do you really do?" She signed as she spoke. "Your business. It's not just import-export, is it?" Choi Jun-ho's expression went carefully blank. He typed, "Why do you ask?" "Because people look at you like they're afraid. Because you have guards. Don't think I haven't noticed the men watching from cars. Because everything about you screams danger. But you're so gentle with my daughters that it doesn't make sense." His jaw tightened. "If I tell you the truth, you'll ask me to leave. Try me." He was silent for a long moment, then typed slowly, "I run an organization. We control certain territories, certain businesses, some legal, some less so. I inherited it when my father was killed 6 years ago." Jasmine's blood ran cold. "You're in a gang. Mafia, technically," he corrected. Korean organized crime. My family has been involved for 3 generations. She should have been horrified. Should have told him to leave and never come back. Instead, she asked, "Are my daughters in danger being around you?" "No," he typed emphatically. "I would die before letting anything happen to them, or you. But there is danger in your life." "Yes." He didn't lie. "There are people who would hurt me if they could. Rivals, enemies. But I've kept that world separate from you. No one knows about you and the girls." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve honesty," he typed, "and because I care about you too much to keep lying, even by omission." Jasmine's heart was racing. "You care about me?" "Yes." His eyes held hers, intense and unflinching. "More than I should. More than is safe. For either of us." "I have 3 daughters," Jasmine said quietly. I can't bring danger into their lives, no matter how I feel about you. How do you feel about me?" The question hung in the cold air. Jasmine looked at this man who'd come into her life 2 weeks ago and changed everything, who made her daughters laugh, who looked at her like she was the only woman in the world, who was offering her honesty when he could have kept lying. "I think I'm falling for you," she admitted, "and that terrifies me." Choi Jun-ho set his phone down and reached for her hand, the first time he'd deliberately touched her beyond helping with the girls. His fingers were warm, strong, and surprisingly gentle. He typed with his other hand, "I've never felt this before. What I feel when I'm with you and the girls, like I can be human instead of what my organization needs me to be." "But you can't leave that life, can you?" "It's complicated." He paused. "I've been trying, slowly transitioning to legitimate businesses. But there are obligations, loyalties, people who depend on me. So we're just stuck." "Unless you trust me," he typed. "Unless you believe me when I say I will keep you safe. All of you." Jasmine looked at their joined hands. "I want to trust you, but I'm scared." "Then let me prove it to you." Before she could ask how, Violet's voice called from inside, "Mommy, is Mr. Choi still here?" Choi Jun-ho's expression softened immediately. He squeezed Jasmine's hand once, then released it, and stood. The conversation wasn't over, but it was tabled. That night, after Choi Jun-ho had left and the girls were asleep, Jasmine's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should ask your boyfriend what happened to the last woman who got too close to him. She disappeared. Maybe you will too." Jasmine's hands shook as she stared at the message. Then her phone rang. Choi Jun-ho. She answered, and seconds later a text came through. "Are you okay? My security alerted me that someone accessed your phone records." "Someone just sent me a threatening text," Jasmine typed back, her heart racing. 3 minutes later there was a knock on her door. Choi Jun-ho stood there, slightly out of breath, his face hard with barely controlled fury. 2 men flanked him, guards obviously, and Jasmine finally saw the world he lived in. He pushed past her gently and typed, "Show me." She handed him her phone with trembling fingers. His expression went lethal as he read. He made a sharp gesture, and one of his guards took the phone, already typing on his own device. "This is Han," Choi Jun-ho typed, nodding to the guard. "He's tracing the number. It'll be handled." "Handled how?" Jasmine demanded. "The person who sent this will be found and dealt with. They will never threaten you again." "What about what they said about a woman who disappeared?" Choi Jun-ho's face was unreadable. He took a long time to type. "There was a woman, 2 years ago. She was an informant for the police, posing as my girlfriend. When I found out, I ended the relationship and had her removed from my territory. She's alive and well, living in California under protection, but my enemies like to twist that story to make me look dangerous." "Are you dangerous?" "Yes," he typed honestly, "but never to you. Never to the girls." Jasmine sank onto the couch, trying to process everything. "This is insane. 2 weeks ago I was just a single mom trying to survive. Now I'm getting threatening texts from your enemies?" "I know." He knelt in front of her, forcing her to meet his eyes. I will fix this. I'll find who did this and make sure they can never touch you again. But Jasmine, he paused, if you want me to walk away, I will. If being with me is too dangerous, too complicated, I'll disappear from your life. The girls will forget me eventually. No, they won't, Jasmine said quietly. Violet asks about you every night before bed. Lily drew a picture of you yesterday. Rose told her preschool teacher that you're her friend. They love you. What about you? The question was simple. The answer was terrifying. I think I love you too, Jasmine whispered. And I hate that I do, because this is so complicated and scary, and everything I swore I'd never get involved in. But when you're here, I feel safe, protected, like maybe I don't have to carry everything alone. Choi Junho's eyes closed briefly. When he opened them, there was something raw and vulnerable there. He typed, I've never told anyone this. I lost my hearing when I was 8, not an accident. Someone my father crossed came after our family. They held me down and ruptured both my eardrums with a knife, as a message. Jasmine's hand flew to her mouth, horror washing through her. That's the world I grew up in, he continued typing. Violence, revenge, fear. I learned to live in silence, to be stronger because of it. But I also learned to trust no one, to keep everyone at a distance, until you, Junho. You and the girls are the first people I've let in since I was a child, he typed, fingers trembling slightly. The first people who make me want to be better, to be more than what my family made me. And I am asking you, begging you, to let me protect you, to let me try to deserve you. Jasmine's eyes burned with tears. What if something happens to you? What if you're enemies? Then I'll make sure you and the girls are taken care of, financially, protected, safe. He cupped her face with one hand while typing with the other. But I'm not planning on dying. I'm planning on living. With you. If you'll have me. This is crazy, Jasmine said, tears spilling over. We've known each other 2 weeks. I know. I have 3 daughters. A complicated life. No money, no status, nothing to offer someone like you. You have everything I need, he typed. You see me. The real me. Not the organization, not the money or the power. You look at me like I'm just a man, and your daughter's signed to a stranger and asked to be his friend. Do you know how rare that is? How precious? Jasmine did know, because that's what she taught them. To be kind, to be brave, to see people as people. If I do this, she said slowly, if I let you into our lives completely, you have to promise me something. Anything. You have to let me in too, all the way. No more secrets. No more hidden parts. If we do this, we do it together, as partners. Choi Junho stared at her for a long moment. Then he typed, I've never had a partner, only subordinates or enemies. I don't know how to be equal with someone. Then we'll learn together. He kissed her then, the first real kiss. It was gentle, but intense, tasting of desperation and hope, and promises that neither of them knew if they could keep. When they pulled apart, Jasmine was breathless. What do we tell the girls? She asked. That I'm not going anywhere, he typed, if that's what you want. It's what I want, Jasmine said. God help me, it's what I want. Han cleared his throat from the doorway, and Choi Junho stood, instantly shifting back into the controlled leader. He read something on Han's phone, then typed for Jasmine. They found the person who sent the message. A low-level member of a rival organization. They're being handled. I don't want to know what that means, do I? No, he typed honestly. But they won't hurt anyone again. I promise you that. After his guards left, Choi Junho stayed. They sat on the couch in the dark. Jasmine curled against his side, and she felt the steady rise and fall of his breathing. I'm still scared, she admitted. He typed, Me too. Of what? Of losing this, of losing you, of failing to protect what matters most. Jasmine looked up at him. Then I guess we'll just have to not lose each other. He smiled, a real smile, rare and beautiful, and pulled her closer. Outside, snow began to fall again, and Jasmine wondered if this was what falling in love was supposed to feel like. Terrifying and exhilarating and completely inevitable. 3 weeks later, everything fell apart. Jasmine was picking up the girls from preschool when she noticed the car, black sedan, tinted windows, following them. Her heart kicked into overdrive. She'd been careful since that text. Junho had assigned guards, discreet ones who watched from a distance, but this car wasn't one of theirs. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands and texted Junho, "Being followed, black sedan, license TK4589. His response was immediate. "Drive to the restaurant on 5th. Park in back. Guards are en route. I'm coming." Jasmine's hands were steady on the wheel despite her terror. In the back seat, the girls were oblivious, singing some song they'd learned in school. She couldn't let them know she was scared. The restaurant parking lot was nearly empty. Jasmine pulled around back as instructed, and within seconds, 2 vehicles boxed in the sedan behind her. Junho's truck screeched to a halt, and he was out in an instant, flanked by 4 men. His face was a mask of cold fury as he approached the sedan. Jasmine stayed in her car, hands gripping the wheel, watching in the rearview mirror. The sedan's door opened. A woman stepped out. Mid-30s, Korean, expensive clothes. She spoke rapidly. Jasmine couldn't hear or understand, but Junho's body language was rigid with tension. The argument lasted 5 minutes. Then Junho turned and walked back to Jasmine's car. He opened her door and his hands moved quickly. "Take the girls inside. Now. Don't come out until I get you." "Who is she?" Jasmine demanded. "Someone from my past," he typed. "Go, please." Jasmine wanted to argue, but the girls were starting to notice the tension. She unbuckled them quickly and hurried inside the restaurant. The owner, a deaf woman who knew Junho, took one look at Jasmine's face and led them to a back room. She brought juice for the girls and tea for Jasmine, signing that everything would be okay. But Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that it wouldn't be. 45 minutes later, Junho appeared in the doorway. His shirt was disheveled, and there was a cut above his eyebrow that hadn't been there before. The girls ran to him immediately, and he crouched down, forcing a smile as he signed with them. But when his eyes met Jasmine's, she saw the storm underneath. "Can we talk?" she asked quietly. He nodded. They left the girls with the restaurant owner, who produced coloring books like magic, and stepped into the alley behind the building. "Who was she?" Jasmine asked immediately. Junho typed, "Park Min-seo. She runs a rival organization. We've had a truce for 2 years, but she wants to renegotiate terms. She followed you to send a message to me." "A message? That she knows about you and the girls, that you're my weakness." His hands were shaking as he typed. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." "So what now?" Jasmine demanded. "We just live in fear." "No," he typed firmly. "I'm moving you. Tonight. To a secure location. You and the girls. Guards around the clock until this is resolved." "Resolved how?" "I'm going to end this. Permanently." The violence in those words was palpable. She crossed a line. "No one threatens my family." "We're your family now?" Junho's eyes softened. "Yes, you are." Jasmine's chest ached. "I don't want to hide. I don't want to live like a prisoner." "It's temporary," he typed. "A week, maybe 2. Just until I can neutralize the threat. And what if you can't? What if this is always our life?" "Then I'll walk away," he typed. "From the organization, from everything. I'll find a way out, and we'll disappear together. Start over somewhere safe." "You'd do that? For you and the girls? I'd do anything." Jasmine believed him. But she also knew it wasn't that simple. "What if they come after us anyway?" she asked. "What if leaving makes it worse?" "Then I stay and I fight," he typed, "and I make sure no one ever threatens you again." "That's not a solution. That's just more violence." "It's the only language my world understands." Jasmine turned away, trying to breathe through the panic. This was too much, too complicated, too dangerous. "Maybe we should end this," she said quietly. "Maybe you walking away from us is the safest option." When she looked back, Junho's face had gone completely blank. "Is that what you want?" he typed stiffly. No, Jasmine admitted, tears burning her eyes. But I have to think about my daughters, about what's best for them. And falling in love with a man whose enemies use children as leverage? That's not best for them. I won't let anything happen to them. You can't promise that, Jasmine's voice cracked. You're one man, you can't control everything, and I can't. I can't risk my babies for this, for us, no matter how much I love you. The confession hung between them. Junho stared at her, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw real fear in his eyes. He typed slowly. So that's it? You love me, but it's not enough? It has to be enough, Jasmine said, wiping her eyes, because I can't lose them. They're everything. They're everything to me, too, he typed desperately. Jasmine, please, let me protect you. Let me fix this. How? By going to war with this woman. By risking your life, if that's what it takes. And what do I tell the girls when you don't come back? Jasmine demanded. What do I say when they ask where you went? Junho had no answer. Inside the restaurant, Violet's voice called, Mummy? Mr. Choi? Jasmine closed her eyes. We should go back in. Jasmine, please, she whispered. Let's get through today. We can figure out the rest later. But she could see in his eyes that he knew what later meant. It meant goodbye. Junho drove them to a secure apartment that night, one he owned under a shell corporation. It was beautiful, spacious, in a building with armed security. Everything Jasmine's tiny apartment wasn't. The girls thought it was an adventure, a sleepover in a fancy hotel. Jasmine felt like she was suffocating. After putting the girls to bed in the master bedroom, she found Junho standing on the balcony, staring out at the city lights. You're leaving after this, aren't you? She asked. He turned, and in the dim light, she could see the resignation on his face. If that's what you need me to do, he typed, I'll disappear from your lives. Make sure you're safe and protected financially, and I'll never bother you again. That's not what I want, Jasmine said, voice breaking. But it's what you need, he typed. I see that now. I was selfish, dragging you and the girls into my world because I was lonely, because you made me feel human. But you deserve better than this, better than me. Don't do that, Jasmine said fiercely. Don't decide what I deserve. Then what do you want? He typed. Tell me, because I'm lost here. I've negotiated with crime lords and corrupt politicians and enemies who wanted me dead. But I don't know how to negotiate with the woman I love when she's right to be afraid. Jasmine stepped closer. I want you. I want this. But I'm terrified of what it costs. So am I. They stood there, inches apart, the weight of impossible choices crushing them both. I wish we'd met in another life, Jasmine whispered. One where you weren't who you are and I wasn't who I am, where it could just be simple. In another life, Junho typed, I wouldn't have been strong enough to deserve you. My past made me who I am, and who I am is someone who will fight for you with everything I have. Even if I don't want you to fight, then I'll find another way, he typed. I'll talk, negotiate, make deals. Whatever it takes to keep you safe without more violence. But I won't walk away. Not unless you look me in the eye and tell me you don't love me. Jasmine's breath caught. That's not fair. Nothing about this is fair, he typed, but it's real. And I'm asking you to trust me one more time. Give me 2 weeks to resolve this. If I can't, if you're still in danger, then I'll leave. I promise. 2 weeks, Jasmine repeated. 14 days. That's all I'm asking. She should say no, should protect herself and her daughters, should choose safety over this terrifying, consuming love. Instead, she nodded. 2 weeks. But if anything happens to you, he pulled her close and she felt the solid strength of him, the way his heart beat steady against her cheek. Nothing will happen to me, he typed. I have too much to live for now. That night, Jasmine lay in bed with her daughters, listening to them breathe and wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life, or the bravest choice. The next 13 days were a blur of tension and waiting. Junho came and went, his face growing more haggard each time. He wouldn't tell Jasmine details. "For your protection," he typed, but she could see the toll it was taking. The girls noticed too. "Is Mr. Choi sick?" Lily asked on day 7. "Just tired, baby," Jasmine said, forcing a smile. "He's working hard." On day 10, Junho didn't show up at all. Jasmine's phone stayed silent, and her anxiety spiraled into full panic. What if something had happened? What if he was hurt? Dead? At midnight, her phone finally buzzed. "I'm okay. One more piece to handle. I love you." She typed back with shaking hands. "I love you too. Please be safe." Day 14 arrived. Jasmine stood in the apartment, watching the girls play, and wondered if this was it. The deadline. The moment everything would change. At 3 p.m. there was a knock on the door. Junho stood there, flanked by guards. He looked exhausted but uninjured. And there was something different in his eyes. Hope. He signed to the girls first. They'd gotten good enough to have simple conversations now. They tackled him with hugs, and he held them tight, eyes closed. Then he looked at Jasmine. "Can we talk?" She nodded, and they stepped onto the balcony while the guards entertained the girls inside. "What happened?" Jasmine asked. Junho typed, "I made a deal with Park Min-seo. She wanted territory and a percentage of certain operations. I gave her both. In exchange, you and the girls are off limits. Permanently. Written into our treaty. Anyone who touches you dies, no exceptions. You gave up your territory. Some of it," he confirmed. "The parts that were most violent anyway. The parts I wanted out of. I kept the legitimate businesses and enough influence to protect what matters. So we're safe." "Yes." He cupped her face with both hands. "You're safe. The girls are safe. And I'm starting the process of transitioning completely out of the organization. It'll take time, maybe a year, but I'm done. I want out. I want a real life. With you. If you still want me." Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. "You did all this for us?" "I did it for me," he typed honestly, "because I finally have something worth living for. Worth changing for. You and Lily and Rose and Violet are my family now, and I choose you over everything else. What if the organization doesn't let you go? They don't have a choice," he typed. "I've spent 2 weeks putting successors in place, transferring power, making myself obsolete. In 6 months, I'll just be another businessman, boring, legal, safe." "Nothing about you will ever be boring," Jasmine said, laughing through tears. "Can I kiss you?" he typed. "I've missed you so much." She didn't answer with words. The kiss was desperate and relieved and full of promises. When they pulled apart, both were breathless. "So what now?" Jasmine asked. "Now we go home," Junho typed. "To your apartment. We have dinner. We put the girls to bed. And we start planning our actual future. Together." "Just like that?" "Just like that." He smiled. "Unless you want something more dramatic." "I think we've had enough drama for a lifetime," Jasmine said. "Normal sounds perfect." They told the girls that night over pizza in Jasmine's tiny apartment, back home finally, surrounded by their things, their life. "Mr. Choi is going to be around a lot more now," Jasmine said carefully. "Is that okay with you 3? "Forever," Violet signed. She'd learned that word last week. Junho looked at Jasmine, asking permission with his eyes. She nodded. "Forever," he signed back to Violet. "If that's okay with all of you." All 3 girls erupted into cheers. Later, after the girls were asleep, Jasmine and Junho sat on her tiny balcony again, wrapped in blankets against the February cold. "I have a question," Jasmine said. "Okay." "That first night, when you walked out of the restaurant, why did you really leave?" Junho was quiet for a long moment before typing, "I thought you were a wealthy woman who'd brought her employer's children to avoid being alone with a deaf man. I thought it was pity. Or worse, that you were scared of me and using them as shields. And when Violet signed to you, everything changed," he typed. "Because in that moment I realized that you'd taught your daughters to communicate with people like me. That you saw sign language as something beautiful, not a disability. And then I looked at you, really looked, and saw that you weren't pitying me or scared. You were nervous, hopeful, real. I was terrified, Jasmine admitted. I thought you were way out of my league. You are completely out of mine, he typed. A woman who raises 3 daughters alone, works full-time, and still has the energy to teach them kindness and courage. That's not out of my league, that's a different universe. We're quite the pair, Jasmine said. The single mom and the former crime boss. Former crime boss in training, he corrected. I've still got 6 months of transition. It's going to be complicated. When has anything about us been simple? He laughed. She'd learned to recognize the silent shake of his shoulders, the way his eyes crinkled. Never, he typed. And I wouldn't change a single moment, not even the part where I almost ended things. Especially not that part, he typed seriously, because it showed me what really matters. I'd give up everything, money, power, respect, if it meant keeping you and the girls. And I did, and I'd do it again. Jasmine leaned her head on his shoulder. I love you. He kissed the top of her head, then typed, I love you too. All 4 of you. From inside, Violet's voice called, Mommy, Mr. Choi, I had a bad dream. They looked at each other and smiled. Duty calls, Junho typed. Together they went inside to comfort a 4-year-old who'd already wrapped both of them completely around her tiny finger. And Jasmine thought that maybe, just maybe, this strange, complicated, beautiful family they were building was exactly what all of them had needed all along. 18 months later. The house was chaos in the best possible way. Jasmine stood in the kitchen of their new home, a modest place in the suburbs, nothing like the luxury Junho could have afforded but perfect for their family, and watched her husband attempt to French braid Violet's hair. Husband. She still wasn't used to that word. They'd married quietly 6 months ago, just them and the girls and a few close friends. Junho had cried when the girls walked down the aisle as flower girls, signing, We love you, in perfect unison. Mom, I can't find my science project. Rose's voice carried from upstairs. Check the dining room table, Jasmine called back, then signed it for Junho, who was still focused on Violet's hair. He'd left the organization completely now, walked away clean with enough legitimate businesses to support them comfortably. Some of his former associates still came around occasionally, checking in, making sure he was happy. But the violence was gone. The danger was gone. They were just a normal family now. Well, as normal as a black woman, a deaf Korean former crime boss, and triplet daughters could be. Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway holding up a drawing. For Dad, she signed carefully. Junho's face lit up. It always did when they called him Dad, and he examined the drawing seriously. It showed the 5 of them under a rainbow holding hands. It's perfect, he signed back. We'll put it on the fridge. The doorbell rang, and Jasmine went to answer it. Her mother stood on the porch, arms loaded with groceries. Someone has to make sure you're all eating properly, she said, bustling inside. She'd been skeptical of Junho at first, what mother wouldn't be, but he'd won her over by learning to cook her recipes and treating her daughter like a queen. Mom, you don't have to. Hush. Where are my grandbabies? The girls appeared like magic, tackling their grandmother with hugs. Junho emerged from the kitchen and Jasmine's mother signed a greeting. She'd been taking ASL classes for a year now. You look tired, she signed to him. Is Jasmine working you too hard? Hey, Jasmine protested, but Junho was grinning. She's a demanding boss, he signed playfully. But I'm not complaining. Later, after her mother left and the girls were finally in bed, Jasmine and Junho collapsed on the couch. I'm exhausted, Jasmine said. How do people have more than 3 kids? I have no idea, Junho typed. 3 is perfect. Any more and I think we'd lose our minds. Jasmine looked at him. This man who'd walked into her life on a disastrous blind date and somehow become everything she'd never known she needed. Do you miss it? She asked. Your old life, the power, the excitement. He thought for a moment before typing, Sometimes I miss the simplicity of it. Everything was black and white, win or lose, power or weakness. But this, he gestured around their messy lived-in house. This is better, more complicated, yes, but better because it's real. No regrets? Not one, he typed firmly. You and the girls saved me, Jasmine, from a life that was slowly killing me even if I was too stubborn to see it. You gave me a reason to be more than what I was born into. The girls love you so much, Jasmine said softly. They don't even remember a time when you weren't here. Good, he typed, because I plan on being here for every moment of the rest of their lives. Every recital, every graduation, every heartbreak and triumph, all of it. What about ours? Jasmine asked. Our moments? Junho pulled her close and she felt the steady beat of his heart under her palm. Those too, he typed with his free hand. Every single one, starting now. He kissed her, soft and sweet and full of promise, and Jasmine thought about that Christmas Eve blind date 18 months ago, the date she'd almost cancelled, the man who'd walked away before even saying hello, the 4-year-old who'd run after him and signed 2 simple words, "Can I be your friend?" Those words had changed everything. Hey, Jasmine said against his lips, thank you. For what? For coming back, for staying, for choosing us. Thank you for giving me something worth choosing, he typed. Then, after a pause, and for teaching 3 little girls to see past what makes people different. If Violet hadn't known sign language that night, we would have missed out on this, Jasmine finished. All of this. From upstairs, Violet's voice called, Mom, Dad, can we have a midnight snack? It's only 8:30, Jasmine called back. Close enough. Junho laughed silently and stood, pulling Jasmine up with him. Duty calls, he typed. Again. This is our life now, Jasmine said, smiling. Midnight snacks at 8:30 and never a quiet moment. I wouldn't trade it for anything, Heros, he typed. Then he signed, slow and deliberate so she could understand, I love you, forever. Jasmine signed back. She'd gotten much better over the months. I love you too, forever. As they headed upstairs to negotiate with 3 determined 4-year-olds about appropriate snack times, Jasmine caught their reflection in the hallway mirror. A family, imperfect and complicated and beautiful, and completely, absolutely theirs.